I think for so many of us, for clients, you get into maybe the 5, 6, 7 million. You're like, oh my God, if I got to 13, that would be amazing. And how great that feels. I feel like for us in our observation, we've been with a lot of our clients a long time, and that was kind of the 2 million. So I almost feel like the 12, 13 million is the new 2 million around here at Bering McKinley, because we see people get stuck there. And it's like a wonderful place to be stuck. Like that's a dream for a majority of us out there. But it is this kind of something's going to get figured out, because there's no reason to not take advantage of. I feel like getting to the 10, 12 minutes, like getting your master's degree, or maybe even your MD. You're like, okay, I did all this learning and get rewarded for it, but now let me put it all into play. Like you said, that infrastructure doesn't have to keep doubling alongside or growing. You've learned so many great lessons that now it's, hey, how much do I get to execute on all these lessons? Welcome back to another episode of From the Trenches, a Bering McKinley Vision podcast series we're doing over here. So glad you're here. We're going to have a great chat. Remember, there's no big action item or key takeaway for you. This is just two folks talking business, talking small business, talking MSP, talking about whatever we want to talk about, because this is our time together. So with that, I'm going to ask our friend Dan. Dan, how did you find yourself in this crazy MSP world?
So when I graduated college, I got a job at Xerox. And as I was starting out my Xerox career, I ended up becoming an agent of Xerox. And as technology changed and they went from analog copiers to digital copiers, you found that we were sitting on people's networks a lot. And we had to load print drivers and put it on the network. Next thing you know, we were doing a lot of that work and not charging for it. People really needed our help, so we started charging for it, and there was money in it. We continued to grow and grow and grow that, and that's how we got our foot in the door.
Oh, that's excellent. So you would have started your career at Xerox probably in the 90s at some point then?
88,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. You were that generation. And did you happen to come in through the sales ranks or more of a technical rank?
100% sales.
I was
I have
just
no technical knowledge whatsoever to this day.
I was just talking to another copier dealer over the last couple of days, and we were sharing stories about other people that we knew. And the gentleman I was talking to has been in that copier world about as long as you have. And he was like, yeah, there were two heydays, like as a salesperson in the early mid 90s and in like early 2000s. Salespeople were just killing it. Like it was just a land grab of money for a salesperson. Does that track with your experience as well?
Felt like I had to work hard for it, but I did
Sure,
well.
sure. Yeah.
I did well. I had this, I don't my dad was a private investigator and I worked for him during college, and I really wanted to do the FBI thing because it looked good. And my dad said, "No, no, 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 no. You've got the gift of gab. You need to try sales for 2 years. Then if that doesn't, you know, seem like the right area, then go back to the FBI. But you really should be in sales. All my friends who are in sales have much better quality of life." And so I started selling for Xerox, and one thing after another, I just really loved it, and I flourished, and eventually started my own thing with Xerox's help.
So you fired up your business in like the early 2000s ish.
1998.
Okay. Now we were just talking earlier. You would have had some kids by then, and young kids, I would imagine.
Yes.
How did that look? You got a dad with a really cool career. You had something stable, but risky by some people's measure, but you had proven yourself. You could provide very well. You come home one day and say, baby, we're starting our own business. We're
That's
going for
exact.
it.
She said, "What?"
Yeah.
Well, so the whole thing for me was with the kids, I wanted to be there for them,
Yeah.
and I wanted to coach their sports. I wanted to go to their sing-alongs at school, and so I did. I was able to, with my own business, have my own, schedule, and so that was the reason. And I also was a business major, and I kind of thought I might know some things, although I don't think anything I learned in college really helped me. I don't remember much, but I was able to survive, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I mean, these small businesses getting started, you don't understand things. But I learned and eventually got to this point.
Eventually. And how did that first few years go for you? You got a family, you got a spouse. It's not, earth shattering. You're not going to prison or something, but it's still like this transition period. Did you feel like you had a great start where you could feel stable? Did it take long to get to that point where you and your family felt stable? How did that transition go for you?
Well, it's crazy. I didn't understand cash flow. That's something they don't teach you in business school. Like, okay, so we sold this much and we made this much and we have nothing in the bank and we have to pay these employees. So that was, the school of hard knocks. So didn't go great. There were times that we flourished and there was times that we struggled. We never had to eat rice and beans, but it was stressful.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And let me ask you, we see, I would say, kind of more often than not, the spouse never kind of makes their way into the business and takes on any meaningful roles, but it happens quite a bit. How about you and your family? Did your spouse decide to come along and participate at any stage along the way?
It's funny how you say that. Did she decide to come along? Um, so so she was printing our invoices for a while because she understood QuickBooks. And next thing you know, she's the CFO. And next thing you know, she is deeply involved in, she got us to the 12 million mark, and then it was too much. And, her quality of life went down when we started to be this giant, or did I lose you? Oh, there I am. Uh, we had this growth spurt that she couldn't keep up with, and I didn't want her to keep up with it. So, but she got us there. My wife's incredible, and if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here today. But luckily, she doesn't have to do it anymore. But it
Yeah,
was
that's a great outcome. It's, again, of those spouses that participate, whether they feel like they have to or they want to. Oftentimes there's not a real clear path for them, and maybe they don't really want to be there, and they kind of do the best they can. And it usually adds more stress for their family than not, and that's not prescriptive. That's just like, hey, that's just kind of what happens a lot. But it sounds like your spouse kind of came in and said, well, what's my role? How am I going to develop this role? And got to kind of opt out, when she was ready and when the business was ready. That's awesome.
yeah. She got the kids through to high school before she had to really start to get involved, and it was
Yeah.
putting in 60 hours a week.
Oh, geez.
Then I'm
Yeah.
like, gosh, I can't believe I did this to her. And luckily, we found a way to get her back to doing the things she enjoys. Like
Yeah.
she's taking lessons on how to speak Greek and read Greek, and she would never have been able to do that in the past.
Cool. That's cool. Now you kind of come through the business, and you started kind of getting more and more into, the network, the client network. And at what point would you say that you kind of put the stake in the ground and said, we have an MSP, we are an IT solution provider company alongside being a copier company? Was there a defining moment, or did it just kind of gradually happen?
Both, really. We were getting busier and busier, and we would throw somebody into, hey, you're the IT department now. Hey, you're the IT salesperson now. And then we transitioned out of Xerox, or Xerox transitioned out of us, and we changed our name and all this type of thing. And that was the point in which, okay, we are a technology company. We're an IT-led company, and that was like 2015.
Okay. And when you got there, now how do you do it? I know a lot of our copier clients, they, most of them kind of say, we're just going to peel off, we're just going to do everything through e-automate. Others will come in and say, well, we're going to implement ConnectWise. It's a better tool for us, but then we're going to try to force it through e-automate. While others say, oh, we're gonna, spin up QuickBooks and run these two different, P&Ls. Where on that continuum have you guys landed? Because I think that's a really tough journey for most folks.
For sure, and we're still in that journey. We have one P&L. We don't have separate P&Ls. And just like you said it, we have ConnectWise, we have eAutomate, and we forced ConnectWise through eAutomate. And it's not easy. It's a lot of work. We have a pretty unbelievable finance team, accounting team that does all that. And it's more manual than, like, we called eAutomate e-manual because it was just uh, not intuitive, and you can't really use AI with it, and it's still a lot of work.
Yeah. Are you clients of CEO Juice by chance?
Yes.
So they probably help quite a bit with that flow to some degree.
CEO juice is amazing.
Let's talk about CEO juice for a minute. Again, I've only been in this copier world for, 5, 6 years now. And one of the first names that I heard vendor wise was CEO Juice. So I've now been hearing of them. We work very closely with them. We do a lot of projects with them. And that is a company that, of all the vendors, of all the MSPs, of copier dealers, all the vendors, they are just beloved. Like, people love them. I have never heard anything even remotely approaching negative about them. And I've talked to them about that, and they're just like, hey, we don't know either. We just do what we do, and it's like, man, no one gets that level of reputation to that degree. So
You talk about filling a need,
yes,
and eAutomate just was incomplete. And Gary Lavin and his crew have made eAutomate so much better for so many people.
yeah.
And they've taken the things that we need and provided them at an easy pace. And they're continuing to do more and more. They're very impressive.
Yeah, very, very impressive. I've enjoyed getting to know them. Let's talk a little bit about, I think, we have a small but wide audience. So if we can, let's kind of stay here for a minute. Just that, like, the copy world has that, like, Johnson Hayes financial model that, my old timers, my younger guys like you, I mean, they all kind of say, "Yeah, once we adopted that model, it was a lot easier for us to kind of see where we're going and where we've been." Todd Johnson is a good buddy, and we have our BMK financial model for MSPs. um, and then, the CEO just kind of mixes it around for us and, presents, our stuff to the copier dealers. How have you made that transition, in terms of, like, this is how I analyze my copier dealer metrics. This is how I analyze my MSP metrics.
Yeah, so there's a lot of so Todd and John are amazing,
Yeah.
and I am a huge fan of
Yes.
those guys. And when I first started doing that model 10 years ago, 8 years ago, we started using that as the metric. Hey, listen, we're unbelievable on margin, but our employee count doesn't make any sense. And look where we are in that. So there was a guy named Corey in Indiana who sold his business. He had the same revenue as us. We had 60 employees, he had 30. And went to Todd and I said, compare his to mine and tell me what you see. And he said, yeah, you're overpaying in this area. You're incredibly overpaying in this area, and you need to fix it. So we did. And it, I mean, a lifesaver, really. So now we apply that as well as we can to the MSP model. We made an acquisition we made a lot of acquisitions, mostly on the copier side, but we made an MSP acquisition. And I knew these great guys that wanted out, and I offered them something I didn't think they would take, and they took it. And we had this quick transaction. Todd looked at the financials, so did some other people. They said, "Oh, it's a great transaction. You got to do it." But what they didn't tell us was there's a culture um, collaboration that you have to really be prepared for, and we weren't. And it cost us a few years, but we continued to live by our financial models that we learned from people like Todd and John and some others. And the numbers don't lie. That's just business. Numbers don't lie, and you have to make tough decisions based on the numbers. And you know, CEO Juice gives us the reports. Todd and John give the reports, and we have to live by them.
Yeah, that's, there's some big distinguishing things that I see with an MSP that's been around 10, 15 years versus a copier dealer that's been around, 20, 30, 60 years. Like the folks I was with the other day, it's two big ones. Number one is kind of sales maturity. I think that comes later in the MSP's life, and sometimes, sadly, if ever, copy dealer seems to really understand, that sales driven model, and then kind of financial decision making. An MSP, has a great gut to: is there money in the bank? Do I feel profitable? Is this seem to be working? But they don't. It takes them a while to get to that place where the P&L is the roadmap for them. If I see this, then that probably means that. If I triangulate this problem, there likely is my operational, hiccup. That seems to come much longer, or it comes much later. And just like the sales, they have to kind of want it. They have to really want that. And it is interesting, having worked with Copier Dealer Association, copy dealers.
Peer group.
Yeah, the peer group, watching them kind of say, "Oh, you tell me these are the numbers that we have to get in our MSP? Cool." 2 months later, they're living it. We put that into MSP's hands, and they don't quite have the staff, they don't have the time, they don't have the, just kind of that ability to pull back sometimes and say, let's really analyze. None of it means they're bad. It just, that difference is very interesting to me, of what it takes from a just a business maturity level. Do you meet many MSPs? Can you compare and contrast? Have you seen anything that you would observe differences between MSPs and copier dealers?
I haven't done the type of legwork that I did on the copier side, on the MSP side. I'm starting to do that, but I really see that there are a lot of similarities in the founder seat with respect to, like, I've always done the, okay, this will be easier on our employees if we have X number of people doing this and get someone just to do that. But then you look at the bottom line and it hurts you. Like, okay, well, we want to take care of our clients, internal and external, at the damage of the big picture. But we need to do it to build. And I did it on the copier side so many times that it's really unwise. And I don't do it on the copier side anymore. Make the tough decisions because you have to. On the MSP side, I haven't focused as much on that. I'm trying to build where our foundation is so much better than it ever was. We have the best staff that we've ever had, but as you compare the profitability between my two divisions, it's not even close. But we have the roadmap. We know what to do, and I know what to do because I've made those mistakes before, and I know I can survive making the mistakes for a period of time, but not forever. So we'll continue to go down that path for growth with profitability as secondary. But I know at some point profitability has to be primary.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And, um, again, I keep referencing the folks I was just with, for the last couple of days. They were in one of our peer groups for several years. I know them well. They're one of our direct clients. And it takes us all a long time to process, understand, execute, and be able to kind of synthesize what's happening. And we were having this kind of classic debate that, in my head, I mean, I wasn't judging them, but I was kind of just laughing in my head. I'm like, you guys have heard me tell this story for 4 years. Now I'm eyeball to eyeball with just you, and we're saying it again, and something's clicking, and I liked it. And that something was, Dan, you've got that copy dealer side, and you've got, all the cogs and expenses and the true net profit. Then you've got that MSP that you're building. now we just kind of, we still say, well, how much G&A should I apply? How much sales expense should I apply over there to see my real profit? And we try to make it real simple. We say um, if your gross profit on your MSP side is 42% or above, you now know you're operationally performing well. The SG&A, we'll worry about that net profit, as you continue to utilize resources more and differently than in your startup phase. Is that gross profit story one that you play around with at all?
I feel like you were telling my story right there.
Yeah, is that right?
That's
Cool.
it. I mean, that's how we are on the MSP side. We're really like, okay, we'll deal with that. We got to figure out what's right here, and we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long has that been? Did that come kind of organically to you early on? Is that something you had to kind of develop with and play with, or did that just seem like good common sense?
We'll be right back with more, but first, here's a quick message from Bering McKinley.
Most MSPs are constantly busy, chasing tickets, projects, and fires. But without structure, it's hard to know if the business is really improving. Vision from Bering McKinley is the system that helps you work on your business, not just in it. It connects leadership strategy with daily execution. Vision aligns people, process, and performance, creating clarity and rhythm from goals to results. And the Vision app brings that structure to life, helping you create policies, track goals, review KPIs, and collaborate with your BMK consultant all in one place. Behind it all, Jetson AI, your assistant inside Vision, helps you find answers, generate insights, and take action faster. With Vision, you gain visibility, accountability, and measurable growth. You're not guessing, you're improving. Vision, Jetson, and the Vision app, your path from strategy to results. Start transforming your business today.
All right, let's get back to the conversation.
It's a great question. I don't usually use the word common sense, but maybe that's what it is. It's experience. It's the business school of life, or the life of business school, however you want to look at it. But there's an education there that you can only be patient for so long.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's been fun, kind of, as consultants, we have to, do our daily job, but for us, just like an MSP or copy dealer, you have to think about how to innovate and how to be creative and how you approach things. Our creativity is usually around the numbers and financial models, and that gross profit thing kind of hit us in about 2017, where we now do a series of presentations on it where we just, kind of jokingly just say net profit is a lie, gross profit is king. G&A is full of lies and bad decisions that have nothing to do with the performance of the business. And it's been fun, over the last 8 or 9 years or 7 years to kind of play with that and see, because you're always figuring out if you're right or not. Was I right in how I approach this? Is that actually making a difference? Let me ask you, in that idea of am I right or not? Let's talk about the other topic, sales. You've had to have some theories on, can a copier guy sell MSP? Can I not? Should I hire my own, a separate sales team? What's your current thesis on sales and selling MSP versus copier?
It's the roller coaster of all roller coasters. We have the most amazing copier sales team. We call it imaging. We've got these guys that have been with us for a long time. They're seasoned, they're professional, they're hardworking, they're motivated, but they're not technology uh, kings. They're very good at the imaging side, but it is a completely different world on the technology side. And we have what we call Mamba mentality, where we're really trying to become these technology leaders. And I've got these guys really trying to get better and better. But to answer your question, you really need technology leaders, and you can't take every imaging rep and get them to sell MSP. But there's some, we're trying to create this technology integrator role where they, are an account manager handling an account, doing all of their technology, whether it's, cybersecurity or whether it's imaging. Yeah, it has to be the right person. But the traditional down the street professional imaging salesperson, not the right thing to have them do both. You really need a separate team, in my opinion. What's your opinion?
I think that's right. I came up doing what I do today. I've done it basically my whole adult career. So I learned how to sell. I studied sales. I love sales, but I had some real blind spots. And when I first started talking to the imaging copier folks like yourself, I was like, you got 8, 10, 15 sales guys. Why aren't they selling MSP? It took me a good year to understand the journey they had already been on. Um, and I think that's right. I think, the copier guy or the imaging salesperson that wants to sell technology, if they see enough of what's in it for them and they're still hungry in their career, I think they can do it. But it's, they have to want it. And I think a lot of times some of the imaging companies had to, um, figure out who wanted it and who didn't want it. And then they kind of go through all these cycles. So I think the answer is get yourself, somebody who's just going to sell the MSP side of the business. But then you got that other challenge of, okay, cool. Who do they report to? A sales manager who's, came up a certain way and now I got to manage a really long, different sales cycle. It gets interesting. It gets real interesting. We do have some kind of mids. Well, I don't, and a copier, in an MSP, a $10 million MSP is God mode. $10 million copier dealer, hey, you killing it. That's great. But, I think that's more like a $70 million, copier side. But, some of our mid-sized copier dealers with, evolving MSPs, they've recently, through no kind of joint, coordination, but just parallel to each other, have started hiring these like sales managers or junior sales managers to say, well, let's build this team for our MSP salespeople. I mean, that's a big budget hit, but somehow that's the math they came up with. That it's like it's just not working for them reporting into the other sales leadership team.
Yeah,
So,
we built what we call a revenue team.
a revenue
We have
team.
we have a leader who will eventually be promoted to chief revenue officer, but right now is a VP of revenue, and he's unique and he can talk copier, printer, toner, cybersecurity, can talk it all. But now we want to develop a team within it, and so we're building what we call technology integrators to work alongside the imaging reps who have the incredible relationships, and we try to develop the relationship with our entire company so that you know they can see the technology highway that we conduct. It's working for some, but not all. And we're
Yeah.
not, we should be doing AV, we should be doing cameras, and we're just not doing those to the levels that we should. We have plenty of MSP clients. We have bandwidth for a few more, but uh, we're building it. But and we're starting with this revenue team that's all working together.
Now that's interesting that you say that we should be doing AV, we should be doing, security and access and whatnot. Um, why do you say that? I do not disagree or anything like that, but why do you say that? Why should we be doing that?
Same, it's very similar products, same decision maker, same conversation, same revenue bucket, same budget bucket, at the client's end. And it's a like the leap from talking about speeds and feeds and sitting on network and print driver to AV and physical security is so small, but in people's minds, it's this Grand Canyon. To make that step, they're just not doing it. And I don't understand. I literally can have that conversation with a client. I'm not in the sales conversations with clients very often, but it just seems to me we should be able to wrap that into every conversation.
I don't know you that well. You don't know me that well. I feel like we think alike. I'm like, well, hell yeah, it's just another thing. You do this, you do that. That's me. That's not necessarily you. I'm like, yes, of course you should do it. I had the opportunity. We've got three kind of physical security access control clients, and two of them are in Manhattan, New York, and one of them's out in the plains, like in South Dakota. When I talk to them, I'm like, "Hey, why aren't you getting involved in the network? Why aren't you getting involved in MSP type stuff?" And they're like, "Hell no." So I wonder if that flows only one direction. Again, that kind of flies in the face of thoughts that you and I would have. We're like, we don't want to touch their stuff. I want to bolt things to the wall. I want to be a master of the software that runs those things. I want to pull the cable and get out. I don't want to touch anything else. But you and I sit here and say, well, yeah, but that seems natural for the MSP or the technology, highway that we're on. Maybe I'm answering my own question. Maybe if you're already doing that part, doing their stuff would not be as big of a lift.
So the MSP, we get 1,000 tickets a month, let's
Yeah.
say, and the physical security and AV gets 0 tickets a month.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's why they say what they say, but we can
Yes.
add it on easily.
Yes. Yes. That's it. I think you're
We just
right.
need a salesperson and an install person, and we have the bandwidth for any tickets that do come in.
Yeah, hell yeah. It was fun hanging out with this client here he's in New York. He came in for a day and a half a day. And I know his business from an operational level, but I didn't really understand like what does it look like to sell this stuff? What does it look like to just kind of function in that world? And man, I got a lesson. It sounds so cool. There's all the technology around the doors and the controls, and it's just like that sounds fun. Like that actually sounds fun. So, are you guys dip toe in a little bit? Are you kind of in it? Where would you say you guys are today?
Pinky toe.
Pinky toe? Yeah. And
Yeah.
and you kind of say, "Hey guys, go sell more of it." Is the infrastructure ready for your team to sell more of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, the AV, we need a couple of hours of training for a couple of people,
Sure.
sales and service,
Yeah.
install.
Okay.
Probably need to invest in a few ladders and things like that. But I mean, what our market is, there's plenty of people we can get to help us, but we really should be doing it ourselves, and we will. And I've, my team is. I got an email this morning from one of our top technicians, like, "Hey, when can I go do the AV training?" Like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's he got me really excited, in talking to him. I'm like, man, you have a great opportunity, and he's doing great as well. And just thinking about like all the shared spaces that they support, those like, office suites, and just like he's like, man, every time one of those flips, we've got another thing we can be doing, and people are putting these things up like crazy in New York. I think your instinct is right. So let's talk a little bit about this. And please, I'm gonna try to drag us here and there. And if you're like, I don't want to reveal that secret, please feel free. It is interesting that you've got kind of this vision, and maybe it's not as big as a vision just yet of, I think we should be there, but on the street, we're just not executing on it yet. Is that a gap in your overall strategic planning? Is that a gap in they're like, the old man says we should do it, but we're too busy. We'll just ignore him for now. Where on the continuum do you think you land on that?
Yeah, it's funny because I, I think a lot of people. I don't think they call me old, but maybe they do. But like flavor of the day. Oh, the flavor of the day is Dan wants us to do this, and so I have to hammer things home sometimes. But we're very focused on our vision. Everybody understands our vision to get to 25 million and what we need to do. And there's this philosophy: 10x is greater than 2x, or 10x is equal to
Well, is that a book out there right now?
yeah. There's I wrote a book. I don't know if you know that,
Oh,
called
maybe that's where I saw it.
10x
Yeah,
happiness. Not that
nice.
we don't need to talk about it, but um, the philosophy of 10x versus 2x is that if you focus all your energies on one area, you can grow it a lot bigger. If you take out all the riffraff, well, even though I wrote a book called 10x Happiness, and even though that's a better philosophy, there is this opportunity to jump into these other areas, AV, physical security, some other more geography, more acquisitions. But like you get to a point where there's not enough hours in the day. But I don't I don't subscribe to the philosophy of I feel like the imaging technology doesn't have the CAGR that uh, all those other things do, and we really need to focus on that. Right now, 80% of our revenue, I'm sorry, 75% of our revenue is imaging, and 25% is MSP. That needs to flip in 5 years. Just because I think that's the way technology is going. There's so much more need for technology products, and I think imaging had a little bit of a spike because of AI. People are printing more and reading more, but I really feel like the diversification is really necessary. And I know it's a tug of war, and I've got to continue to pull people through it because they're not taking the time to really embrace it. Like I still can make a great living doing imaging, but there's so much more. I don't. Did I answer your question?
You did, you did. I'll admit I'm a little distracted with. I didn't know. I don't think I knew you wrote that book. Tell us about that book. I'm looking for happiness everywhere I can find it. Title of the book is 10x Happiness, right? Is that what I saw? That show that again for a sec.
It's called 10x Happiness. It's so this guy Steve Fowler
Yeah,
and I known each other a long time.
yeah.
Probably 50 years. But we've been in this book club with another friend of ours. We've been reading books together for literally 30 years. A lot of the great works, philosophy, stoicism, um, personal development, self-development, all these kinds of things. And we've been reading all these great books, and every year we do what's called a deep dive, where we talk about, what did we learn this year? How do we get better? What are our goals? Blah, 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 blah. And so about 10 years ago, Steve said, I want to write a book. And we said, we'll help you. And so this is really the second version of the book. From all the books that we read, these are our lessons. And this is the 10X idea is if you really focus on like 4 areas: financial, health, relationships, and your personal development. If you really focus on like the atomic habits side of it, you can really get so much happier in life and you can flourish if you focus on these things that matter the most. And we I feel like we took 300 books and broke it down into a 220-page book that is a guide for your life. And you know we didn't do it to make money. We did it to give back. And we've gotten some good feedback on it. It was fun to some degree. It was a lot more work than I thought, but it's a way of giving back. And it's a
That's
easy read.
that's awesome. Now let me ask you this. So you guys write this book, you get it published. How does it interact? How does that book interact with kind of your employees or your clients or your potential clients? Does that book start playing a piece of it, or is that completely off to the side saying that's separate project, no direct relation?
Completely separate.
Yeah.
It's a gift. I sent out a thing to my clients. If anybody wants one of these, I will sign one and send it to you for free. Uh, I'll, my wrist can handle about 50 signatures, and some people got it. I got some good feedback on it. Got I'm gonna. This is gonna change my life. I need to do these things, and a lot of people don't think about wealth and health and you know relationships. They take it for granted, and this is kind of some of the hey, this is the easy way to do this. Here, these are the steps, and so it's not as much as it's helpful to everyone. I didn't make it a business thing.
Sure, sure. And what was there other than I think you said your buddy's name is Dan, is that right?
No, he's Steve. I'm Dan.
Steve, I'm Dan. I'm sorry,
He's a
Steve.
judge.
That's right. So other than Steve saying, "Hey, I want to write a book," Was there anything kind of precipitating in your life that said, yeah, this is the time, let's go?
Not particularly. It was
Yeah.
really, I mean, he really wrote it. I rewrote it, and
Yeah.
then he rewrote it, and then I rewrote it. And this is, it's really mostly about his, the way it was written is kind of in the theme of a judge, and I put my spin on a lot of it, called it his,
Yeah.
but it's ours. It's everything we've
Yeah.
been talking about for years. We literally read a book a month and we sit down and we to analyze the crap out of it, and how can we make our lives better, and then at the end of the year we set our goals. We look back, what did we accomplish, what didn't we accomplish, how can we be better, and we critique each other, like, you don't know how good you are, and like, why are you judging people, things like that. So we just got better and better at ourselves, and we flourish. We recognize when there's joy. We recognize when, you know how important family is, and we recognize how important relationships are, and saving money and investing, and there's just a lot into it.
You know, Dan, I think I should feel better. I just feel dumber and worse right now. I talk to my buddies and we're talking shit and, wasting time talking about nonsense. And you guys are having real, inspiring conversations. That's really cool.
So let me make you feel a little bit better. So first of all, there's a group of 10 of us who I
Yeah.
think have had like monumental success,
Yes.
and we drive each other um, subconsciously to get better. Like, if he's able to do that, I've got to be able to do that. So we try to keep up with each other, and we do, but we harass each other too. We, the number of times that you walk away from a conversation going, "Oh, that was a little mean to that person," or
Yeah.
hurt. So we're there too, but
Got plenty of that involved
we
too.
also have moments where we won't talk to each other for a month. I mean, we're little girls as much as we are, thriving adults. So
That's
don't
right.
don't feel, don't feel less than at all.
It's what's interesting. I don't know what kind of, law or what practice of being a judge, Steve participates in. I found this interest in a local, murder that took place here in our town, and I was just really fired up about it. So for the last couple of years, anytime there's a hearing, leading up to this trial, I try to make it. It's about an hour and a half to sit in the courtroom and watch, wait for that case to be heard or that hearing to go. And it's obviously criminal, and you sit in there and you just learn so much. You learn a little bit about how the process works. You learn kind of how judges interact. You learn the terrible situations people put themselves in or find themselves in. And, you're watching some people come in handcuffs and leave in handcuffs. You see someone else come, not in handcuffs and, has to go get detained. It's just like, it's so humanizing to just say, oh, wow, that's what the world looks like. And I imagine whatever area of the law that Steve participates in, whether it's business or criminal, there's lessons in there. Like you are seeing. I don't think many people are having their best day of their life in any courtroom. So that's a very sobering kind of, seat that he sits in. Did that kind of inform some of his, desire to write this book of like, I see all this tragedy or I see all these crappy moments. There's some threads here I'd like to point out to people. Was that any of it?
Well, first of all, good for you that you pay attention to the local case, and you go and sit in and to get educated on it. But Steve's an amazing judge, like ridiculously good. I went and I watched him. I fanboyed, watching him in court
Yeah.
one day. And in my experience, I haven't been in court much, but I was called to several juries or tried to get on, and I watched these other judges who were pathetic. And he's in civil. He does these big cases. He's been highly recognized. But um, the motivation for him to do that was to further his career and to give back what skills he has, and he does have the skills to, for efficient court uh, room uh, processes, and he also, the thing is, half the time you make people happy and half the time you make people unhappy, and he tries his best to be this middle, make everybody happy. Like, this is the best decision. And he studied negotiation. You can read about negotiation in the book, but he studied it so much so that he can make both sides feel happy with the decision as much as possible, to really listen and understand. And he has the skills, and he's leaving the court to become a mediator because he's done it for 30 years or whatever the number is. And uh, but he really shouldn't. He should be on the Supreme Court. He's that good.
Nice.
Yeah, but
Now,
I don't think he wants to do that.
if we rewind, you said you've known him, it sounds like basically your whole life. When you think of sixth grade or 10th grade, Steve, were you like, yeah, that's where he belongs? Or you're like, what's this numbskull doing up there? And how is he so good at it? Like, where on the continuum would you kind of put that?
Let's see. His bachelor party, his 21st birthday. Let's see. I mean, remember I was telling you off camera about the fantasy football camp that we went
Yeah.
to? He broke
Yeah.
my sternum in that. Um, So I have, we've had our roller coaster of times. He
Yeah.
jumped for his 21st birthday at our fraternity. We were having to be in the same fraternity at SC,
Yeah.
and he jumped from the top of the stairs down to the bottom of the stairs as I walked in late to his party, and tackled me from like he could have killed himself, but he just.
Yes.
But so we've had a lot of those moments,
Yeah.
and but he is just he just he's 50 times more impressive than me in everything that he does. I mean, you read about it if you
Yeah.
want
I'll
to know.
definitely get a copy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that's really cool, man. We've had a fun conversation off camera and while we're here now as well. Um, I can see your view. It looks like things are going really, really well. What's kind of the big thing for you as you kind of come into 2026, looking all the way to maybe even 2030? What are we seeing for the markets that you're trying to serve for you? Are there some big moments of unlocks that you're predicting in the next couple of years for yourself?
Well, I'm predicting a massive amount of growth.
Yeah.
We're at that awkward size. We're 13 million, and at 25 million, we keep the same infrastructure. So why not double our size with the same infrastructure? And so our big focus is marketing and getting in front of as many people as possible, diversification into the other products we talked about. So I'm very I'm very optimistic about our future. It's all about growth next year and the year after. We're gonna and having and flourishing. We're really gonna celebrate the successes. We're gonna work really hard to get to the successes, but then absolutely make sure everybody feels the the success, like from top to bottom. So
That's it's really funny. I think for so many of us, for clients, you get into maybe the 5, 6, 7 million. You're like, oh my God, if I got to 13, that would be amazing. And how great that feels. And I feel like for us in our observation, we've been with a lot of our clients a long time, and that was kind of the 2 million. So I almost feel like the 12, 13 million is the new 2 million around here at Bering McKinley, because we see people get stuck there. And it's like, man, well, great, wonderful place to be stuck. Like, that's a dream for a majority of us out there. But it is this kind of, hey, something's gonna get figured out, because there's no reason to not take advantage of. I feel like getting to the 10, 12 minutes, like getting your master's degree or maybe even your MD. You're like, okay, I did all this learning and getting rewarded for it, but now let me put it all into play. Like you said, that infrastructure doesn't have to keep doubling alongside or growing. You've learned so many great lessons that now it's, hey, how much do I get to execute on all these lessons?
right,
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's it. That's the fun part. I have this philosophy of my world. Have fun, work hard. You know, I wear shorts 300 days a year. I'm just not. I just really wanted. I'm like Zuckerberg. I don't want to think about clothing. I want to think about numbers. And I have lots of decisions to make. I want to make them business related. and not, nothing that slows me down. So got the right people, living in the right time, living in a great part of the world, and there's nothing holding us back. So, except me. So I push it.
Love it, man. Well, listen, where can people find you? Take your time. We can edit however we need to edit, but where can people find you out there? Where can they find the book? Where can they find any other media outlets that you have for yourself? Where can people find you?
The book is everywhere, literally Amazon. You can uh, Barnes and Noble, and it's we have the audio version. We have it all. We have it all. GoodSuite.com is everything else. I'm in LinkedIn and Instagram, and posting a lot of fun and doing a lot of founder-led content these days. So I'm easy to find.
Dan, thanks for joining the podcast. It's been great. Everyone else, thanks for coming along. If we earned it, give us a like, a share, a subscribe, leave a comment. If you disagree or agree with us, share your own thoughts. Thanks for coming along on this one, and catch you all next time. Bye, Dan.
Thanks, Josh.